Hello and welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Buy Round interview show. Now, today I'm joined by a recent NRL record breaker and someone who I'm delighted for our listeners to get some insight from. A man who's come up on the podcast on a number of occasions, a few stories to tell from your perspective. A man who I've learnt so much from, a former captain of mine, a person who I hate calling in commentary as well, I have to admit. Anyway, Cameron McInnes.
Hey mate, it's great to be here. It's listened to a few of these and have heard my name being mentioned, so it's a chance to have a chat with you and maybe tell my side of it as well.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, hey, how you going? Hey, how you going, boy? Oh, hey, you know the rules, Cam. You can't come in here with your face like that.
Got to be careful of that these days, don't you?
Yeah, you do, mate. I'd say you're looking great, but you look bloody terrible.
Yeah.
Look at the state of you.
I felt good after the game this week, to be fair, and I woke up the next day and there was things on my face that I didn't know how that happened, but
got a couple of stitches in there.
Yeah,
that's from this week. The game.
Yeah, well, this one was actually I got the one on my left eye last week's game. But me and the little man were having a bit of a wrestle this morning and his head butt me and they've come off. So that just shows the fans it doesn't take a lot to split me. So when all the blood's out there, don't be worried about me.
Man, what's going on with your knee there?
That was actually a stud to the knee and I got it stitched, but it's just in an awful spot. So it's a big ulcer there and yeah.
An ulcer from a stick?
Yeah, it's just split open again. And I got it stitched, but it's on the knee there, so when you bend, it just keeps opening up. So, yeah.
These are the type of things you don't miss.
Yeah, yeah.
That'll just lake with you probably until around till the end of the season, and it'll heal up, and then first day back at pre-season,
hit it again.
As soon as you knee on the ground, it opens up again.
Yeah. Oh. You know what it's like though when you're playing, you're just in that state, aren't you? You
are.
Yeah.
You are.
Just get on with it, don't you?
You just crack on, my friend. Mate, so, again, for those of you, the listeners that didn't understand why I don't like calling you in commentary, because in my opinion, it's McInnes, not McInnes.
Can you tell us the story of the origins of that?
Just when I was at the Bulldogs and we'd play against you and I'd be like, we need to watch out for that McInnes. And they'd be like, who's that? I was like, McInnes.
It's not the worst I've got, to be fair. Growing up, it was always McInnes. And you remember there was I think it's Kevin McInnes played for West. Yes. And people would say, are you related to him? We go, well, I don't think so, because number one, we've got completely different names. So, yeah. So
he's married into the family. But yeah, it's McInnes.
McInnes, yeah.
Not McInnes.
Yeah. Well, there's no H in there. So
when I used to think McInnes, like Michael Innes.
Yeah.
So like, that's not Michael Innes, it's Cam McInnes. And obviously it's my name for you, McCann, and everyone ripped the shit out of me for it. But it's difficult when I'm commentating, yeah. And it's like, what's his name again? Like, which is the correct way to say it. So
yeah,
I think I've gotten away with it thus far. Well, because sometimes I'll write next to your name, like like some names you have to like phonetically. Yeah, I knew it was I was going to say photons, but that's physics. I was going to say, phonetically, I'll like write it out how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
With you, I'll just put McInnes.
Well, at the start of the year, I don't know if they did it at every club, but there was a video we were meant to do where we pronounced that, like, did a pronunciation of our name. I refused to do it, but I probably should have done it.
Yeah, you probably should have,
other people. Mate. I was just like...
Not McGuinness.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Mate, how are you? Anyway, in all seriousness, Cronulla, great victory over there in Perth, quite unexpected. A lot of people thinking you were on the slide. You were coming, second or third only a couple of weeks ago, but that victory must have given you guys so much confidence, knowing you can mix it with the competition's best.
Yeah, I think so. For us, obviously, when you're playing, it's never a surprise, but definitely the last few weeks, from probably that Manly game, the second half and through to the Penrith game, we've been making strides. Obviously, 28-0 against Penrith doesn't look that way, but you watch the game and you look at the stats and that, the amount of work we had to do defensively was unbelievable. And for them to only score 5 tries, which again isn't acceptable either, but we walked away from that with a lot of confidence that we're on the right track, and then went over to Perth, and it was big for us because we've played away a few times this year and just haven't performed. So it was good on a number of levels. Good side, some great plays in that side, and for us it was really important. But it's what we do next. Always in footy, it's always what you do next, isn't it? And that's our challenge. And to be fair, it's been a challenge all year. We've had little periods where we're going well and then let ourselves down. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, played yourselves back into form, in my opinion. So you think, again, a stupid question, but confident you're going to make the 8?
Yeah, I think so. Like, again, you said that a few weeks ago we were second or third, and that shows how tight it is. So whilst I am confident, I also know that every single game, and that old cliche, every game matters, but it's crazy how it does, Like, I think we've got 4 games left, and in my opinion, we need to win all 4. There's sides in and around us that are in the same position, and
11 wins now, I believe.
Yeah,
11 wins.
Which,
so I think 2 more pretty much guarantees you, but
you just don't know, do you?
Yeah, you just don't know.
So and it's great for the comp for us as teams, though. It's obviously you'd like to be sort of wrapping up at this stage of the year, and we were last year, but at the same time, it's great for the fans, and it's all ahead of us if we want it. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Well, you spoke about that Penrith game, conceding 5 tries, but you got through a couple of tackles in that game, didn't you?
Yeah, a few. Yeah, it's obviously I spent all last week having people pat me on the back, and you were very much like that. I know you didn't like the pats on the back that much because, to quote Roy Keane, who you turned me on to, it's your job, isn't it? You do your job, and when they run at you, you tackle them, and that's what it is. And because of the amount of ball they had, they were running at me a lot, and it's for me, it's wasn't that big a deal. And if you watch the game, a lot of the tackles and me getting third man in there and tidying up and things like that. So it sounds sort of better than what the feat was. I think for me, the bigger takeaway, and I'm touching on it before, was the resilience of us to turn them away time and time again. Because Penrith are, we all know Penrith, and I thought we were outstanding. So it's a funny game we play to be outstanding and still have that happen to you.
It is a funny game, and just on that, Cam, and we had our, disagreements about this when we were playing together. I don't think you should have been in a position to make 81 tackles. So I watched the game for you guys on the weekend. Cronulla kick off. After their first try, Tom Burgess runs at you.
Yeah.
And you tackle him. I thought, why is Cam making that tackle? Second time it happens, you take him on, and I love that about you.
Yeah.
But you got Rudolph and Hamlin Welle on your right-hand side. Now, for me, when you kick off left, it goes winger, half, centre, edge, back row. Then you've got your 4 middle forwards. So for me, you were playing hooker at the time at the Dragons. I was like, mate, you piss off over there. We need you running the football. We don't. You should be, in my opinion, the hooker should be the last of the middle players. Even you could argue they should swap with the back rower in those set restarts scenarios. You're there as a 13, but for me, it's on those front rowers to say, Cam, I'm going to take on Tom.
Yeah, no, it's not them shying away from it, and it's interesting because I remember you saying that to me at the Dragons, and I'd get my head on and be like, I don't care. But now with Blake, I'm the same. Get on the long, get yourself out of harm's way because we need you. But yeah, obviously Tom's a big boy, and how hard he was charging, I still reckon he would have ran over most people, although it looked pretty spectacular. But
look at the size of Hamlin Welle and Rose. You'd want one of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know you're going to be modest. I know you're going to be modest with it, but it's just my observations of it is You should be protected from yourself because, again, Cam, with most people, you look at some of the people that were in and around the top tackle makers, the people who's were up there in terms of number of Sorry, let me rephrase that. Look at the players that make those 70 tackles a game. I think it was like Michael Luck, Sean Fenton, those workaholics, Dallas Johnson, all great players. And that's what they brought to the game was just a heap of defensive effort and defensive energy and make massive numbers without the ball, but then would offer, with due respect, not a lot with the ball in hand. But I think with yourself, you do offer a lot with the ball. You've got one of the quickest play balls in the competition. You've moved from 9, even when you're playing at 9, you're a very dynamic out of dummy half. You're an integral and important part of the team's attack. You're not one of those 9s that would just dish the ball out. Make your tackles and dish the ball. There's more to you than that. And use a 13. You're not a Sean Fenton style of 13 that is like, I need 50 tackles to have an impact on the game. You're dangerous with the ball and the quick play the balls and then the opportunities that you provide. So for me watching it, I think personally, and I would say this, that I think the other middles haven't looked after you. And I know you're not going to agree with that, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I obviously, I'm never going to say that, they haven't done their job either or been trying to get stuck in. And with that there, over my career, it's been something that often I'll get labelled that sort of workhorse type player. And I know myself that I definitely have more than just being a stat man. But at the same time, I find it hard to shirk the work, if that makes sense. So, and I will never name names, but there are players in the game, and there's been players, in the past that they're called moments players. They might save themselves here and there for that moment that comes, but better than me with the big games you've played in. There's some games where there are no moments, where it's just fine margins and you got to be in it, and the players like that wait for those moments, and if they don't come, then what use are they to the team? Because the fans might not see it, but he hasn't kick chased, he hasn't put pressure on, he hasn't done these little things. That's someone else in the teams have to do it for him. They might come up with a try or something like that, which I get. You need it in our game, but from a teammate standpoint, a coaching standpoint, that stuff doesn't fly. And it's always about getting that balance. But yeah,
it is, and I guess it depends on how you on how you structure your environment and what you value as a coach.
Yeah.
So are we going to treat everybody equally? So it's kind of like, well, it's everybody's job to kick pressure.
Yeah.
Well, it is until it isn't.
Yeah.
Or do you say, well, I'll tell you what, I'll compliment you. And people know that. Like I've had that with front row partners and gone, look, I'm not as effective out of the backfield as what it used to be. I'll front load my energy with kick pressure. You've got to get us out of the shit.
Yeah.
Like you've got to, or you take the big runs to get us more meters, more quick play the balls, and at different times throughout my career, I played that role differently. And there are some teams that structure it as like, no, everybody, it's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
But what used to piss me off sometimes is like, say, well, if it's a non-negotiable and a player doesn't do it, but then you leave them on the field for the first half and you applaud their carries and their meters.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, well, hang on a minute. I thought we all couldn't. We all had to. No one was allowed to play off to kick pressure.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's okay. But you're subconsciously saying it's okay because they've not done it.
Yeah.
But then, and I'm okay with that as long as we're honest.
Yeah. I think though with that, I don't think anyone should ever have an out to actually do their job. So something like a kick pressure, for example, if you're at marker or you're near that kicker and you just decide I'm not going to do it, and then they kick the ball and the winger drops it because there's 3 guys hunting down him. Like for me, that's just pure laziness. But then I can understand maybe a big front rower that's got a powerful carry not supporting or doing those things. Wait until play 4 to get his big run that's going to put the team on the front foot. Those are the things that I can understand in a team. You balance it up, and that goes back to my point. So the size of me as well. I'm a smaller forward. I can run more than these big guys as well. So I can understand your point of the kickoff carry. Maybe I don't need to make that tackle. But in terms of, running out from mark to make tackles or
you're gonna
putting pressure on things like that, I have a better, capacity to do that. And that's
you
where
can
those
impact the game.
Yeah, and that's where those stats come from. And I said it before, the 81 tackles, good. But I reckon going through those tackles, maybe 30 of them, were my tackles, if that makes sense.
Yes.
50 of them were someone else's tackles I'm helping. So if you really look at it that way, in terms of the collisions or whatever, there's not that many. And that's what a bit about what we're talking about. Like, as a team, there's some big boys and their job's to knock the front door down and be that intimidating physical hitter. I'm not built like that, so my job's to tidy up, move the ball a bit, and get quick play the balls.
That for me is a stat that not enough people, especially in the commentary box, speak about. Coaches speak about it because they know the value of it. And if you look at why Melbourne was so successful, because they realised the value of the play the ball speed. So it was all based around play the ball speed. That was the metric. When we've got the ball, if we play the ball quicker than any other team, that's the most influential stat.
Yep.
And then if we can slow the play the ball for the other team, that's the most influential stat defensively. So you can make as many meters as you want, but as long as you don't play the ball quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't care how far you carry the ball necessarily, but if you play that ball quickly, that's a win for us.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't think enough people appreciate. The first thing you look at the stats, runs, meters, tackles, try assists, all that sort of jazz.
Yeah.
But the devil's in the detail. Yeah. And you look at it and you go, it's the team that play the ball the quickest usually wins the game.
Well, I think for me, like, not that I look at the stats much, but the post-contact meter stat, I think, is one of the most ordinary stats in the game. Like, don't get me wrong, there's still place. There's, like, analytics is important, but that big guy that bends the line and it's taken 4 to get him down, it's still important because there's that psychological aspect of the other team going, geez, this guy's coming here. And even if you do slow that play the ball down, it's taken some work out of them. But at the same time, though, if you're running 10 metres after contact and get put in your back, playing the ball in 6 seconds, and then the line's sorted, there's no threat after that. Teams can get it set. Yeah. Whereas if you might make 2 metres without surrendering, you play it quick, fullback can't get his numbers, and then that's where the joy is. So, yeah, I agree with you. That's
I often think about that forward that, quote unquote lays a line, but will on around the 20-metre mark, will carry it into the defensive line. The collision has begun on around about maybe like 12 meters out, like the line's got up, met the attacker, and they'll pump their legs all the way to the 5 meters off the try line, but then you get put down at the last moment. The play the ball is slow. You're not scoring.
Nah.
Like you as a defender would be like, right, we're completely set. You're not going to score.
Yeah.
But it looks,
what a run.
What about this run? 6 post-contact meters. What about the great work from the big fella? It's like, no. You're best getting that initial engagement of contact on around like 11 meters. Fight like it means everything to you for the quick play of the ball, and your teams are more likely to score, not just in the next play, but in that set. Yeah. Because of the desperation required from defenders when you're not set and ready to go.
Yeah. And to your point there, like, this is a little bit off, but like that laying a line, like for me, I feel like the game, well, some teams have progressed that and other teams are still doing it. And laying a line is just that waste of a play that it's footy's past that now.
Play on every play, right?
Oh, you got to. Yeah. Well, especially
there's an opportunity might present itself.
And coming off your own line, sometimes there is that 1 out carry. You just got to roll the sleeves up. But attacking the try line, we don't do it at Sharks, and some teams do. But that layer line of play is just
it's just a waste.
It's a waste of time. Yeah. So
like you may as well have some variety in that play. Yeah. You never know what's going to come from it, or at least have an option, because fatigue is a huge important factor in the game, as well as other metrics like quick play the ball, but it's that mental fatigue.
Yeah.
So if you've just got that one-up trucker into the lay the line, it's like, good on you.
Yeah.
You don't have to think. If you're like 2 or 3 players away from that run, you're just there. You're not thinking.
Yeah.
You're in fact distracted looking at what's next. But if you've got a couple of support players there, you're thinking, and that drains your mental capacity, that mental fitness side of things as well. So it's a really good point that you make. Anyway, enough about the stats and all that, but I want to ask you, because I know what happened the next day after those 81 tackles. Now, most people would be sat there listening to this thinking, bit of a sleep in, breakfast in bed, Sharks send over the physios. But can you tell us what you did the next morning?
Yeah, so the next day at about 9 o'clock or 9:30 in the morning, I was trudging up the hills at Taronga Zoo in the city there. But no, mate, to be fair, I wasn't that sore after, and I don't get too sore after games. I didn't sleep much. That's probably the hardest thing. But yeah, I promised the 2 kids, because we're going to Perth the next week, I promised them that we do something fun, and I said, what do you want to do? And they said the zoo. So I hope that they'd forget about it, but they woke me up Sunday morning, and they were saying, we go to the zoo, and I was like, yep, all right. But it was good, mate. You know, it's like you got to get moving, and we had lost, so head can churn a little bit, but that's the beauty of kids, isn't it? It's not about you anymore, which is
they don't care.
They do not care at all.
81, 10 tackles, split
Yeah.
or not. It's just, Dad,
Yeah.
you're taking me to the zoo, because I think someone spotted you at Grind Cafe the next morning.
I was there early, G'd myself up.
Yeah.
Get a bit of courage to take the day on. But
it's pretty, like, again, Cam, this is, I know you, and you're like, your hard-nosed approach, you're meticulous with everything that you do, and I think every viewer that watches you loves you because of you just pour everything in to your football, and we're going to get into that a little bit later as well. But I think it's important to show that human side of it. That next day, you take the kids to the zoo, and I know obviously Noah's on a very strict routine with things, and like it's pretty remarkable that's what you do, because I don't think enough people. I don't think most people realise that you're there being next day after that monumentous record-breaking effort. You're there at the zoo. It's pretty cool, mate.
I think, to be honest, like as footy players, I think we can get a little bit. I'm going to say this in too negative a way, but because of all the media, and it's there's a lot around what we do, investment and things like that. Sometimes we can get a little bit sort of full of ourselves isn't the right word, but we think we're more important than what we are in society. If you strip it back and think about it, we play a game that kids play, like it's a game with a ball. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what we do. Like, and don't get me wrong, I'm
made up game with made up rules.
Exactly right. And don't get me wrong, it gives my life everything. So, and I take that made up game very seriously. But at the end of the day, though, my kids are the most important thing, and family, and they love what I do. It gives them some joy, but I'm no better than anyone else. And what I did the night before, whilst to some people, and I'm grateful that they admired it, but the next day it doesn't matter. It's done. I've still got a job to do there, more important job really, and that's the way I looked at it. And I think you have to look at it that way, because again, we're on the next week, and we'd lost, so
when you just mooching around the zoo, did anyone pull you up, or?
Oh, there was one Sharks fan there. He hadn't watched the game the night before. I forget why he said that was, but he showed me he had a tattoo on his chest. He took his shirt off and showed me. There was kids around. I said, "Put your shirt on, brother."
Hey, you know the rules. How's it going, boy?
Yeah, but other than that, a lot of tourists there. So I was one of them. So yeah.
teeth out, like, well, what's going on here? Like covered in scratches and markings.
It was more people looking at me like, what the hell's? Because it was funny actually. One of the fellas in our team, a young fella, he's come from Newcastle. His partner works at a pub in the local area, and after one of the games, I actually I went there with the missus and kids. It's family friendly. And I felt terrible because I'd met her before, but only briefly. And you know when you know someone but you're not sure. And I was going to say, I didn't say anything, but she served me, and she had this look on her face, like, and I was just thinking, oh yeah, she just thinks, what's this guy been up to? Anyway, she went home and told, his name's Max, and goes, what happened to Cam? I think he's been bashed or something like that, like on the weekend. She's like, and he goes, what do you mean? And he's like, he was split, he had black eyes and that. And he's like, no, he just played footy. So she was generally concerned for my well-being. And at the zoo, I felt like there was people looking at me like that as well.
Yeah,
so,
like,
yeah.
Man, it is for, like, it's part of the life of a footballer is to be walking around like you've been the victim of some sort of like violent crime.
Yeah.
I can only even that when you're with your, because for you it's so normal. It's just another week. Especially going to places like the zoo where there is a lot of tourists, and what is this person walking around like that? Because I guess for most people, if the face looks like that, life stops. They hide. And like, I'm not going to go out until this is better.
Yeah,
because I don't want people staring at me. But it is a bit of a strange thing.
Yeah.
I can remember walking around with like black eyes, and people are, what's happened here? It's like, just a game.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. They always assume that you've been the one that's been bashed as well, don't they?
Yeah, the old, oh, you want to see the other guy? that old chestnut, just like, oh, right, okay. And they're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, but yeah, you don't think of it. Yeah, and it's, it's like, I know, because we're used to going hard all the time, and you got that adrenaline and full pace and everything like that, and incidental things happen in footy. And a lot of the times the splits and that, they're minor incidents you don't even remember, like it's nothing, like the big shots and that, often nothing happens because you're prepared for it and you're braced for it, you see it coming. It's just those little, you might be in a tackle and someone moves their elbow, and with me, the boys say I got grape skin, which I sort of do. Like, it doesn't take a lot these days, but yeah, I can understand that someone that's not in that world would be like, what's going on here? But it's just normal.
At the zoo, were the teeth in or were they out?
Nah, they're in these days. But
when you're like that, you've got to like walk around the zoo with your teeth out, like just frighten those tourists off.
Yeah, I got to sort it. I'm going to Turkey next year if you want to sort it out.
Oh dear. And Noah was good with you the next day, like just yeah.
Yeah. Nah, he's
on with it. Dad.
They're both. Mia and Noah, they just used to it now.
Yeah.
This year's probably the first year that Mia, because she'll be 3 next week, she understands footy now. So at the start, I might have split my eye in the trials, and she was a bit scared of it. Whereas now she just play on, and Noah, he just he's obsessed with band-aids right now. For the listeners, if they don't know, Noah's autistic. My boy is 5 years old, and he's amazing, and we love him to death. And he's I don't know, people have had anything to do with autistic, kids or adults. There's no filter on them, and that's some of the stuff he does is hilarious. But he's forever getting me a Band-Aid, trying to shove it on my face or things like that. So it's really good.
Yeah, that's quality. Well, let's get into a little bit about the making of you. You're one of my favourite teammates, and people will hear me say that line a lot, especially to guests that I have. But it always interests me about the making of people. Can you tell us a little bit about growing up and how you got to now? Because I do separate you from the rest of the groups. I do put you in that different box from like, you've got most of your teammates who are sort of fit the mold, but you were very different. And attitude-wise, you didn't get influenced by others. You stayed true to who you were no matter what. And yeah, it always intrigued me about what got you to being that person. What were the influences for Cameron McInnes growing up?
obviously, like everyone, you have your parents and people around you that you take things from. So first and foremost, the old boy, just incredibly hard worker, and he was a teacher, then assistant principal, then school principal, which a lot of people, you know, have those influences. But for me, the thing that I learned from him was school that he worked at, when he was the assistant principal, every Saturday he'd take me with him there because he was a hard worker, but he wanted his kids around him. So he took me, and no students there. But I'd help him out. We'd go around the school and empty the bins and put the new bin lining in, like every single Saturday. And like at the time as a kid, I was like, oh, okay, this is what you do. But then growing older, and that's like, that's not an assistant principal's job. That's you hire a cleaner, a maintenance man, whoever it was.
Caretaker.
Yeah, whoever it is. But for whatever reason on the Saturdays, I don't know if they had a caretaker that couldn't do it that day. So he'd put his hand up and goes, okay, I'll do it. So,
wow.
Yeah, so like he's the assistant principal. Even did it when he was a principal as well. And that sort of work ethic to do those sorts of things and do things the right way and take that responsibility. But so little things like that. But I don't know, my old man would always say to me that my biggest and sort of power, and also would get in the way as a younger, was my single-mindedness, like my tunnel vision of things. So if I had something in my head, I was doing it, and mostly it was footy. That was the biggest
Can you
thing.
give us an example of that?
Well, just, I don't know, like from the age of probably 8, I was going down the park with poles to do drills and fitness and things like that I don't know no one told me to do it. I just thought, I'm doing this. And I think when we were in year 6 or 7, this person came out and gave us a nutrition talk, and I took it so seriously that for the next 5 years, I don't reckon I ate anything that I deemed was unhealthy. Like, I didn't know anything about nutrition, but I reckon 12 or 13. Like, I can understand at the time parents are a bit sort of worried about it. They're like, why won't you eat this or that? But I just had in my head, if I do these things, it's gonna stop me from getting to my goal of playing footy. And obviously, when you grow up and you learn a bit more, you can relax a bit and understand. But that's just how I was at that age. And I remember old boy saying to me when I was maybe 18 or 19, because I wasn't drinking then either, because again, that'll stop me. And he goes, mate, you got to enjoy yourself. And a lot of parents would probably hope that their kids are, staying away from these things, but he knew that I would do the right thing, but he just worried that I wasn't enjoying myself. But for me, I was, like, that was enjoyment. But it was just sort of that tunnel vision, single-mindedness, that bit of stubbornness that I don't know if I got from the old boy, but probably my grandfather, who we've spoken a little bit about. I get that from him. He's 85 or 84 this year, 85, sorry, and still walks 3 hours of a day with his 50 kilo Doberman, and just lives on his own and has his routines, and just tough man. And so I don't know if I get it a bit from him, but just for me it doesn't seem weird because that's just how my brain has worked, and I've mellowed out a bit as I gotten older and a bit more balanced, but
So again, like, I think back to my youth and just how impressionable I was.
Mm-hmm.
People that could influence me, and the sort of social conformity got me a lot, and it happens to a lot of teenagers especially. It's you want that automatically. I want to fit in.
Yeah.
I want to be with the it crowd, and even within football circles, like, our game does so much for young men and young women, and helps shape them to be incredible human beings. But then, like any social group, there's elements of not antisocial behaviour, but just, I guess, risky behaviour.
Yeah.
Law-breaking behaviour, pushing boundaries around things like alcohol and, the impulsive pleasures of life with food and stuff like that. But how did you push back against that? Because I'm assuming along that journey you would have been introduced or come across people that were like, "Hey, Cam, come on, just have this or have a smoke or whatever it may be," or "Mate, come on," like, or they would try and get you to do things through ridicule or imitation of, "Oh, that's soft behaviour. Like, come on, what are you scared of? Just have a Big Mac, have a chip." Like, what was your way, your mechanism of just saying, "No, this is who I am," and
it just wasn't. It wasn't hard. I just loved, like, footy was just everything, as it is for all like guys my age that aspire to do what we do. But I think as well, like, what I did have that some people might not is I had a good framework at home. Like, it starts there obviously where, you know, there's a place to go to. There was that routine put in place for me, and then, like, I liked the routine, and it just meant so much to me to try and have a crack and make it, that it just wasn't hard for me to say no. Like, I still hung out with my mates and I went to parties and things like that, but when people were doing things at that age that it's natural for kids to try and do, I just didn't. I don't know why, but in my head I was like, I'm not missing out on anything. Like, and yeah, I don't know if I had this thought, like, in the future, like, they're the ones that will probably be missing out. I do remember probably when I got more to 16, 17, I having that thought in my head. And it just wasn't hard, mate. Like, it, yeah, that's why I don't really know why it wasn't, but I just never thought that was something that I had to do.
Well, I think from speaking to you, it's clear that you had something to aspire to that was more important than that impulsive pleasure, which is going on to be a footballer. And you've obviously done that incredibly well. I guess they're not mutually exclusive. It's not, you engaging in that behaviour and making it as a professional athlete, because we know a lot of people do, but for you, in your mind, it was, and it's got you to where you are. It certainly has.
Yeah, and when I'm saying this now, like, that you can never, like, do what others do to get to where you want to go. Like, it's your journey, and you're right. I've played with a lot of players that, partied and things like that at the age they probably shouldn't.
Mate, don't speak about Latin like that. Jeez.
Well, he's probably one of them, but some did make it, some didn't make it, and then there's also some guys that maybe not so much as disciplined as I was, but definitely, had a red hot crack and did all the right things and didn't make it too. And sometimes it's a bit of luck, sometimes it's right place, right time. Like, it's a combination of things for sure. And also just that persistence over everything as well. That's, and I don't need to tell you that, but it's everyone has their own journey, and some people use those sort of experiences. They do the wrong thing and learn from it and make it as well. And I didn't really have to learn from things. So then when I got into first grade, things came at me that I hadn't been prepared for, and then you had to learn from them then, if that makes sense. So that adversity came later for me than it might have for other people. So there's sort of merit in both, I think, paths.
100%. So you're sort of modelling the behaviour of your father and your grandfather, but it is interesting on, like, child development, people development, and just how much. I don't think having a perfect childhood suits anybody, and like what the perfect conditions should look like, and it's hard to know how much adversity and hardship you should be exposed to. I guess there's a bit of a Goldilocks effect there, but I've seen, there's many a story of people that have come from backgrounds of alcoholic parents that repeat that pattern of behaviour and model that behaviour. Then there's a few that have that experience and then totally abstain from alcohol. And the environment, I believe we're products of environment. We do tend to model behaviour, but it is really interesting that around how you modelled your behaviour, your environment. I'm guessing, well, like you said about the things you were exposed to, and you just said no. I think that's a better person to model than those that just go along to get along. I know I got swept up into that a little bit. You come through the juniors, banging down the door, and you're at the local club, South Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
Come through there. Your debut game, what's it like to... Because you're South's junior. Were you a South's fan growing up as well? Or?
Well, when I first started getting into footy, it was around that 99-2000 sort of time. So Souths had just been kicked out of the comp. And my family, like, no one was a Souths fan because they're not from the area. We ended up settling in there. So I was more of a Roosters fan, but I was just a footy fan, really. But obviously, as I started growing up and getting into those development teams, I was obviously became a Souths fan. And I just feel so lucky coming through at the time I did at Souths, obviously with, you know, Sammy and Greg and John Sutton and these guys, learning off them and the success at that time, sort of those first couple of years that I was there, the habits that I learnt through training under Madge there, it was, you know, you earned your stripes and you sort of your apprenticeship there, but some of the, you know, those experiences and the people I've been around definitely put me in the direction for the rest of my career.
Yeah,
sure.
so you were at Souths coming. There was a host of top line hookers around Souths at that time. I know Isaac Luke was there.
Nathan Peets left. I think he left after 2013.
Yeah,
ended up playing Origin. Yeah, then Appy was there.
Cookie.
Cookie came in 2016.
While you
while I was there.
While
so
you were there, yeah.
In my period from 2013 is when I first started training with the lads to when I left in 16. Yeah, there was how many of the, so three of them have played Origin, Appy, Peetsy and Cookie, and then obviously Bully and International, and then Robbie Farah came right after as well. So
were you there when Robbie Farah came, or you?
I left.
Or you?
I left as he. Yeah, so as he came, I left to go to Dragons, and I still had a year to go, but you know the club gave me granted me a release. I asked for a release because things weren't going the way that I thought they should. When I say they should, not from them standpoint, more of a me standpoint. Coming through, learning under Isaac, 2016, he left, went to Warriors, and in my head, young guy would go, yeah, this is my time type of thing. And instead of, just playing my footy, learning, doing what the team needed, I definitely looking back and it was like, what can I do to make sure that I'm in the team, or what can I do to progress further rather than what does the team need me to do? And you know what it's like, mate, whenever you're in that headspace, it's just that things don't work well, Some players can get away with it, I reckon, because that's their personality. But for me, it was just going against who I was as a person, and it was just inconsistent form. And me and Cookie were sort of one would play 1 week, the other, and at the end, both of us were told that Robbie was coming the next year, and I could have stayed, and I just thought though that I just need to have a change here to sort of refocus and start again. And I was very, very, very fortunate that the Dragons gave me that opportunity, because not everyone gets that opportunity. We've both played with players that have the ability, but more often than not, it's the mental that gets in the way, not the physical. It never is. But they're not given that opportunity. And I got given the opportunity to go to a team as a starting hooker after only playing I think I played 38 games for South, but only maybe 18 of them were starting at hooker. The rest of them I was off the bench, or they gave me an opportunity which I'm always in debt to those people for, because not everyone gets that chance to sort of start again,
and especially in a specialised position.
Yeah,
where there's only
some teams one, some two.
Yeah, it's not like a middle forward where 3 start, 3 on the bench.
Yeah,
it's an easier pathway to a professional NRL player being a middle forward. But specialised positions like hooker, there's only it's kind of like a coach.
Yep.
There's only 17 jobs in the NRL.
Yep. Yeah, so
it is difficult. So very grateful for the Dragons for bringing you over. What were your impressions when you first got there?
I had so obviously what I'd been through at South. And when I say what I've been through, again, put myself through it, but just that as a player, you have the highs and lows. So when you're winning, it's euphoria. When you're losing, it's that pit in your stomach, that feeling. And for a while there at South at the end, I had that pit in my stomach just constantly. And that was a product of overthinking, thinking, oh, I need to do this, need to do that. Things not going well. Why aren't they going well? You start just analysing everything. And footy wasn't fun because, you know what I mean? So going to Dragons, I was like, so I've got this opportunity. I'm going to do what the coaches asked me to do, whatever the team needs me to do, and I'm going to enjoy it, and whatever happens type thing. And getting there, I just had this freedom over me. And the team, it was coming off a rough year for them in 2016, but there was a few new signings at the club, and they changed a couple of things, and pre-season was really enjoyable. Moved down to Wollongong, so first time away from home, which I'm a big believer in that. Like, if you can stay where you're from forever and things work out for you, that's good, but I'm just such a believer that you got to get away and you got to grow up a little bit and have some life experience. And even though it was only an hour and a half away, we're still on our own, me and Rach, my partner, and it was time to be a big boy sort of thing. And started the year well, probably overachieved. Faded at the back end of the year, and it was your Bulldogs at the time that we had to win that game to make the 8. We lose it. Cowboys end up sneaking in and going to the grand final. So crazy how things happen. But just it was such a rewarding first sort of year there after everything that had happened before, and to have that year there for the fans as well. I think they saw a bit of promise there after probably not seeing it for a while.
Well, with you coming over, you spoke about you doing what the coaches asked you to do. Was part of that to raise the standards in the organisation in terms of like the professionalism?
Yeah, I think
I know what you bring to any organisation. And even with your move to the Sharks, it's like raising standards in training. Was that part of the conversations that you had with the people that brought you to the club?
Yeah, I think like my reputation as just doing things as best I could at all times had preceded me, because everyone knows everyone in footy. So, and there's always a kid you hear about at another club that has a great work ethic and things like that. So it's not that I'm any different to any other, but that had preceded me. But I brought that, but at the same time, you know what it's like when a team comes off a poor year. Often the next year there is a bit of a definitely in pre-season. There's guys are on their toes, and because we started the year so well, everyone was sort of buying in, and it's great. I don't like the roster wasn't. I think it would have been tipped to probably come near the bottom, but you know what it's like. As long as everyone's buying in, you can do anything in footy. So, yeah.
And then 2018,
yes,
you had a couple of recruits to come and help you out, don't you?
Yeah, a couple young bucks come over. It was obviously coming off 17, got nearabouts, and then when we obviously Ben Hunt had been signed early days, but then near the end of the season, or was it after the season? After the season, yeah. We got news that you were coming over, and it was very, very exciting because as a player, like we're on the cusp. You might need a couple pieces of experience, and thought I had this wise man coming over that might be hard to relate to because he's too old for all of us. But
I think I was only like
you weren't that
31.
Old. Yeah. But mate, it was honestly the up there with the most enjoyable sort of 12 months of my entire life, both on the field and off the field. It was remarkable times.
We instantly connected. I think for any front row, you've got to have great relationships with your hookers. And I look back at my career, and often my best friends were the players that played number 9, because we just had a good understanding of one another. James Roby, yourself, Michael Innes, Josh Hodgson. I'm probably missing a couple out as well. But yeah, I think it's so important that front rowers and their hookers have a good understanding and a good friendship away from the field as well. And we instantly gravitated towards one another, and we had some really interesting conversations. But let's not forget, the big missing piece to the puzzle was Big Latsy.
Yeah, you know what? Like with Latsy, like just one of the most unique people I've met in footy. Like I think his ability on the field actually gets overshadowed by his personality. Because for us that year, coming off the bench, the impact he brought, he's a big man as well. Good skill, offload.
Let's say big dopey man.
Yeah.
So big man, dopey man.
Yeah. But
clumsy.
Yeah. But just for team camaraderie, like just the best. Like, and you could come off a bad day, a bad loss, whatever, but he'd say something or do something, and everyone would just be lifted.
And that he did the job that it's almost the impossible job. And we speak about it in team sports a lot about the week to week proposition of the competition and how you exit a loss. So like that loss, and it can linger. So you've got to get over it because we've got to play pretty soon. And you do your review and everything, but sometimes having a guy like Latsy who's always got high energy, apart from when he doesn't, which is another story. But usually got that high energy, and even when he hasn't, it's funny when he had no energy. That was like it was just that lifted everybody to be like, right, we're going to get after him because something's up. Yeah, something's up with Jerry, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. And he'd be running inside to check his share prices that he'd invested his life savings into, and then like, do you remember that session when he was in and out like a yo-yo? And it's like, is he all right? Is he like got like the runs or something? The company he'd invested in was doing like an announcement, and he kept running in to find out. All those stupid shoes. Do you remember those shoes that he used to wear? Those like they were like the hybrid between training shoes.
The Crusaders. The Crusaders.
They were like a hybrid between running shoes and football boots. Yeah. Like he'd just come out in a pair of them and like trying to be serious, doing like speed drills. Yeah. It's like, Latsy, what are you doing? Oh my God, my knees.
But when you think about it, it must have been that exhausting for him. He must have gone home and just crashed because his energy's up, and then you're right, when it's not, everyone's stuck into him. And he must have walked in some days going, if I'm not up here, the boys are going to be into me. But yeah, to his credit, he did a great job of it. But there's just countless stories to be told about him.
There's one story that he actually was very public with, was the dreaded trip to Townsville. And can you just, for my recollections of I remember the night very well. But the story, I think he started the story along the lines of, he said to you on the field as we were clapping the fans in that game in Townsville, something like, I think you're going to have to strap yourself in here, Cam, for a big one.
Yeah.
And then it ends the next morning, you finding him naked in the hotel room, and we're about to board the bus in about 20 minutes. So can you just put it from your point of view, your recollections of that?
Yeah, I definitely remember.
Evening.
Well, it's obviously muggy up in town, so it was a tough game we just played, and we're clapping the fans, and Latsy's gangling over to me.
That is
Macca, you're gonna have to look after me tonight, Macca, mate. You gotta have to look after me. And I was like, all right, Latsy. Like I didn't really like. I wasn't, because I was soaking in the wind. He's on to the next one already. And then so I was like, rightio. So we get back to the McCure, and I'm not sure if we'd had a beer or not yet. I think we might have had one at the hotel, and it was you and me left. I'm not sure what we were doing. I think we might have been talking to fans, but the boys had gone before us, and we got a cab over, and I'm thinking, okay, we'll have a good night. It was a good win, but we've got a game next week. Finals are coming up. So anyway, get there. Like the boys are just wild. And it's a wild place. This is round 2021, whatever. Anyways, and then as the night goes on, it's a good night. And then I'm not sure what time we left, but anyway, I go straight to bed, wake up next morning, go swim in the pool, eat, do recovery, all those sorts of things. We got a flight at, I think it's 11 o'clock, so we're leaving at, or maybe it was 12 o'clock, we're leaving. Anyway, I'm walking back to my room to get my stuff to get ready to go. And Lassie's just staring at the door, just naked, just hand on a hip, looking at me. Sunny's on. And I've tried not to engage in him because I don't want any part of it. Him and Ewan are rooming together, and Ewan Aiken, absolute champion and great bloke as well. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stay away from this room. Sort of just half looked at him, and Latsie's just gone, Camo, what's wrong with you? And I was sort of like, I've got to go over here. And then I was just started laughing because the biggest man in the world, Sonny's on naked, 11 o'clock in the day. And I just laughed, and he was like, oh, what? Sorry for living. I just laughed. I go, mate, we got to go soon. And as I'm walking, I'm just like, oh, this is wild. But anyway, get to the airport, and he's in a state. And I don't know if he mentioned this on the podcast, though, but the biggest mistake he made was going up to Leeson Armour, who's an absolute gentle giant, but also one of the scariest
Don't piss him off.
I've ever been around. And Leeson's got a bag of Maltesers, and Lassie's reeking. Like, you get pissed standing 5 meters away from him. And Leeson doesn't drink as well. And he's in his face going, Lees, what did you do last night? Like, takes his Maltesers out of him, snatches them off him, arm around his shoulder, and Leeson's looking away from him. Just, I could see in his eyes, he's like, get off me. But he's too nice a man to do anything. And then Latzy gets on the plane, falls asleep instantly, dribble on the shirt. And then, yeah, get back to Sydney. And then obviously he's had the demons. And then I remember we had the leadership meeting a couple of days later. and Latzy's copped the brunt of it. And then he's pointing the finger left, right and centre. And yeah, it was that probably wasn't the most wild night we had that year anyway, but there was another place that started with T that we went to as well.
We went to Terrible, didn't we? Yeah.
terrible. Yeah, so it was great year.
It was a good year, and sometimes you look back and we were playing some fantastic football that year. I remember the Anzac Day game and the Roosters, who went on to win the competition that year, just didn't have an answer for us. We were playing some amazing football. We had a great connection within the group, but the stars just didn't align for us. We lost Gareth Widdop, I think, around 26 or 27 up in
Paul Vaughan as well.
Broke his foot in training. He was playing. He played State of Origin that year. I think Tariq Sims went down in the semi against South. So it sort of makes you wonder, had the injury gods been on our side, what could have been? I think the competition was insanely close that year. From memory, I think there's only 2 points separating first to sixth or seventh, maybe. I think we finished seventh. We were because we were 2 points off the top four. Yeah, I remember that being one of the key takeaways. And we didn't finish the season well at all. But you go, if we'd have won one of those games, like where would have been on the ladder? And if buts, maybes, it didn't happen. But we had a lot of fun, and I think we were a great side. I don't have any shame in saying that, or not embarrassed. I think we were a great football side. That, like I say, I think I remember Trent Robinson saying after or talking about the season that was for the Roosters, and he reverted back to that Anzac Day game. He's like, we had to change how we attacked because the Dragons were just all over us. And my memories from career are a little bit a bit blurry, but I remember that day, and we were hammering, and they were on our try line, couldn't score, and they took the 2 points, and we were like, that's a win for us, and we were just like, yes. And we looked across, and they were like, they were gone. But yeah, it was good times there, and like I say, going back to me and you gravitating, we had some some interesting conversations along the way, and we talk about Ricky Gervais a lot. Obviously, we have a couple of coffees, and again, one of those things that stays with you throughout your life. You have countless conversations with people, but I remember walking back from Bucco's with you, and I think the topic of concussion was coming up. I just had that bit of a fallout with Peter Fitzsimons, where he wrote that not article, personal attack on me, and I was fuming. We were having a conversation about life, and you said the words to me, "This is my life work. This is my life's work, Jam." And I was like, "Whoa, what a way to sum it up." Can you just, because I use that quote all the time, can you just sum up what in a bit more detail what you mean by that?
Yeah, I think like in the sort of current climate of what's going on with all contact sports, it's not just our game. A lot of games, like there's a microscope put on it with the effects that may or may not happen to an individual. And when that day saying it, like I still believe that. Like from when I was 5 or 6 years old, when I was introduced to rugby league, something clicked in my head, and it happens for a lot of people. And if it's not rugby league, it happens in other jobs that people they gravitate towards. There's a reason for that, I believe. Like obviously your influences, but there's something about footy or whatever sport it is, whatever you're into, your passion is, that there's a reason that you gravitate towards that. Now, whatever you believe in, higher power, whatever it is, laws of attraction. But I believe that, I gravitated towards footy for a reason, and, the effort I've put in and how much I wanted it from when I was a kid and all those things that, it is my life's work. Like when it's all said and done and I retire, yeah, I'm going to have to work again because I'll only be, mid-30s, whatever it is. But I'll have done what my vocational purpose was in life. I still have my kids. I still have my missus. I have family and friends, want to contribute to the world just by doing the right thing and earning my way. But what I believe I was put on this earth through science or religion, whatever you want to look at it like, was to do this. And so when you remember that time with you, with Peter Fitzsimons just coming at you and not using him, but there's a lot of people that comment on things in the game and about that issue that, there's a reason you have the platform to comment on it. It's because of the game, and you're gonna say these things. And I think I've had this chat with you as well about, for a lot of people, and if we didn't have footy, what would you be doing? And so for some people, the answer would be more dark and dire than others. I probably think that I probably would have done something else, but I definitely know I wouldn't have been as fulfilled as I am now. That's for sure. But I feel like the way science and things is going, without trying to get too deep here, it's all about trying to keep us alive for as long as possible. How long can you live for? How long can you live for? Don't do this, that'll kill you. Don't do this, that'll affect you. And it's like, okay, so I'm going to stay away from all these things that give you joy, happiness, fulfillment, just so that I can live to the age of 90 and then at the end of it go, oh, yep, what would we do there, And for me, I'm just like, don't get me wrong, you don't be reckless in life, you don't do stupid things, you got to look after yourself the best you can, but at the same time, you got to have experiences in life, and you got to do what, makes you feel fulfilled. I don't like using happy. Happy's a fleeting moment. Happiness is that's a feeling, that's not a state of being, but fulfillment that's what all humans should be looking for. And for me, footy, I was with my family as well, but that gives me fulfillment, and I don't apologise for that, and whatever happens. But yeah, that's the way I look at it, and yeah,
it can make you feel alive.
Exactly right. Yeah, I think
I've never felt more alive than when I've been just about to start a game.
Yeah, and yeah, you're a warrior the way you played, and I try to be as well. But you're also human too. So there is those times throughout. It might be a game day, or it might be whatever, where you're like, geez, I don't like this feeling. That pit in your stomach type thing. But then in the off season, I can only imagine retirement. But in the off season, when I don't have that, I'm like, Can't wait to have that feeling again. It's you feel like you need to spew. You're going to shit yourself. Like it's at times because of that. Your body's getting ready for.
You know what's funny? Because you're not selling it there.
No,
you're not selling it. Like I want to feel like I want to throw up.
Yeah,
I want to feel like I've got knots in my stomach.
Yeah,
but especially young men are attracted to that risk.
But so are fans too though. Like that's the thing too. Like how many people tune in to watch what we do, and it's not just men now. Like it's women as well. The NRLW game, like
there's an attraction to a certain personality types that are attracted to that risk and that.
Yeah, and then if you're not attracted to doing it yourself, a high population attracted to watching it.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you then? And that's a human instinct that we have. And obviously, footy gives you the avenue to do it.
Yes.
Where you don't you're not out on the street knocking someone out, in that way. So
well, there's a couple of points I want to agree with you on, Cam. Is for a better society, if we take sport out of it and take rugby league out of it, if you want the highest possible functioning society, you need to have an outlet for certain individuals.
Yep.
Because if you don't, like you said, we've got some NRL players that make some awful decisions anyway. Mm-hmm. Even though the fact that they've got, like you said about having that focus, they've got all the time spinning around their brain, I'm a footballer. Mm-hmm. There's more consequences to my actions than the average Joe. I've got a big contract on the line. I've got teammates I don't want to let down, and they make some decisions that lead to have a negative impact on society as a whole. Yep. You take that away. What does that do for society? So you've got some questions to answer. How do you structure a society? Yeah. And also sometimes we look around and go, oh, this is a social construct, that's a social construct, or I don't like this about society, that should be banned. It's like things are here for a reason, and there's a big history about why we have sport, especially competitive sport. Some of it is to do with getting men at the time ready for war, give them something to be preoccupied by, getting them ready for that state of emergency where you need to get into war. Yeah. Anyway, that's a society thing. But also when, I always felt a little bit under attack about, how dare you come after me for my decision-making after a thorough personal investigation and deep dive into a topic that I felt like I was taking on the risk at greater knowledge than most. Yeah. And I think you make a point there about, well, is the goal of life to extend your lifespan? Is the goal of life to extend your health span? Because they are two very different things. Or is the goal of life to have those experiences? Yeah. Those money can't buy experiences, which being a professional athlete, you can't buy that experience. It's impossible to buy. And even that, okay, well, someone could say, oh, you're stupid for doing what you're doing. Don't you know that it's been proven that an NRL player or anybody that's played a contact sport significantly reduces their life and health expectancy? Well, I go, well, that's fine. I as long as I know that, and I do, I'll take that on. But look at the number. I can't remember the percentage, but I know it's over 50% of all-cause mortality in America, and these are American stats. All-cause mortality is way over 50% deemed preventable. Yeah. Now, you could argue what preventable means, but some of that is through obesity, decisions that people make. Yeah. Like, I was getting attacked by someone being like, this is a choice that I make that actually does have some health benefits to it as well. Yeah. But look at the decisions that people knowingly make that is killing them.
Yeah, exactly. And the preventable ones and things for that far down the track. For me, I can't fathom looking at me as a 60-year-old man, because am I lucky enough to get to 60? I know that's a dark thing to say, and I hope I do, but who knows, Well,
Cam, again, this is another how I kind of got to now is in 1870, which isn't that long ago, 150 years ago, the average life expectancy, 25% of people born in 1870 didn't see their 5th birthday.
Yeah.
A further 25% didn't see past their teenage years. So the population was very stagnant at the time. That's where we used to be 150 years ago.
Yeah.
Now we get the opportunity to almost pick our poison.
Yeah.
We should be grateful for that.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, I'm grateful for the fact that I got to choose to play a sport, not get dragged off to war, not get struck down with some disease that now we basically we vaccinate for.
Yeah.
Like, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, and it's I don't want to like be too negative here, but the way the world's going, and we all know it, everyone knows it, it's just getting softer, and that's just a byproduct of like what you're saying with vaccinations and eradicating infectious disease and you know, improvements in science and less wars and everything. What sort of adversity that people faced in the 1800s, the real threats to their life, life was about survival back then, whereas now you don't really need to worry about, especially in the Western world, you don't need to worry about survival, and that's when the mental health things come in, because everything's there for us, so therefore the brain starts churning about what I do or don't have, whereas 100 years ago you didn't worry about that because you were like, where am I going to get this next meal from, you know? And I'm not saying that's right either, but it's just like we can't just cushion ourselves forever. You got to, you know, that's
100%. And even that, like, recognize just how fortunate, and I appreciate and I'm grateful for that I can think about tomorrow, because there's a lot of people in the past, from the hundreds of billions of people that have been before us, they didn't have an idea of what tomorrow was. And in today's world, a lot of people like make a decision today that's going to impact you positively tomorrow. It's like, no, I need a meal. Yeah. And I don't care what that is. I'm not looking for it to be quote unquote good for me. Yeah. It's just a meal. Or I'm grateful if I sleep through, if I wake up this evening. Like, for a lot of time throughout history, people have tucked their kids into bed and gone, this might be it.
Yeah, exactly.
This might be it. Yeah. And that's genuine. That's not like some ditherer going, oh, this could happen. It's like genuine threat of not waking up. And unfortunately, that happens for some people. And I think we should be grateful for the fact that we get to choose our sport in rugby league.
Yeah. And I could talk all day about the topic just because of how passionate I am about it, because I stay off social media and those things, and I try not to read too much, because I think with media in the world, and it's the way the world is, like it's geared towards the negative, because that's what people want to listen to and talk about and things like that. But especially with this topic, the positives aren't preached as much as I believe they should be. And for me, I'm okay, because I understand and I'm doing what I'm doing, and I know how much it means to me. But for the game as a whole, which I love and I want it to have a really good future, like, I do worry about the parents of young kids that do hear all these things that come out and watch these programs, and the way the game is now, mate, even from when I first started, but the way it is now, it can't be any safer. Like, honestly, it can't be. Like, the way that
can't be harder on illegal and foul play.
And even, like, you know, guys at training, if there's a little head knock that, you know, may or may not be, they're sent off for a test straight away, stood down from games. Like, the amount of times someone's come out to the field to me, I'm just buggered out on my feet, and they go, we're going to do a head assessment on you because you're moving slowly. And it's like, I'm okay. I didn't even get a shot, but that's how pedantic they are with it, for the right reasons. And not only that, the research into it as well, alcohol after getting knocked out and things like that. Like, that's number one. Now, after games, we barely drink anymore anyway. But then also, back in the people, they didn't know. They get knocked out, straight back on the field, 10 beers down them after the game. And that there's all these factors that go into it. And also the amount we train now as well, they weren't doing that back then. Man, I went in the off-season last year, I went and watched my mates play park footy, and these are guys that just are labourers, accountants, all this. I couldn't watch it because they're going that hard, but they're not built for it. Yeah, if that makes sense. Like, they're whacking each other without the technique, without the frame to do it. Their heads are jerking back, like, and I play footy for a living, and I didn't even want to watch them play. So the way we're trained these days, people might say there's more force, but we're actually conditioned to do it. Our bodies are built for it. It's an armour. we use the technique. So, yeah, I'm trying to sell it to the people out there, exactly, if that makes sense. But don't get me wrong, I'm also understanding that, there could be risks in the future too. I'm not, my head's not in the sand either, but at the same time.
But again, is the role of a parent to completely alleviate risk?
I believe no. But otherwise.
And here's another thing. I say this and I get laughed at all the time. If you're going to take your child out of contact sport or rugby league on the grounds of safety and well-being markers, short-term, long-term, short-term, medium-term, long-term, all well-being markers, take them out. That's fine. But whatever you do, don't put them into poetry. And that's the reaction you get. And you go, dickhead.
Yeah.
And you go, I'm being serious.
Yeah.
I'm being 100% serious, because if you want to look at facts, not feelings and your own internal impression, well, of course, writing poetry must be safer than playing rugby league. How can you possibly question that?
Yeah.
Go and look at the data.
Yeah.
Or as you guys say, data. And you'll see all well-being markers.
Yeah.
Counter question to that. Maybe there's something that attracts people to poetry, the darker side of people. Maybe something attracts people to rugby league as well.
Exactly.
Just
right.
saying.
Yeah.
It wasn't all this serious conversations we had. Was it? Can we? Often the Ricky Gervais would come up.
Yep. Should we mention where it came up? Where maybe it didn't have a place for, or do you want to leave that story? I don't know if you remember.
No, I do.
You do.
Go on.
Yeah. No. So I think it was in the wake of the Bulldogs one, which I think we have touched on, with the drones flying with Jeremy Latimore. I believe that was in the. You remember when the infamous drones
with Todd Greenberg came to speak to us after.
Yeah, so we won't go through that because the listeners have had the pleasure of hearing that story. But it was on the back of that where, Mad Mondays, and I understand the NRL stance on it, but the club CEO at the time, Brian Johnston, got myself, you, and I believe it was Frizz in a room just to talk about what the plan was, pretty well saying the club can't have any part of it, but he's not naive to think that we're not going to go and enjoy ourselves as a team after the season. And as he was talking, I remember you just saying, putting your hand up to make a point and going, Jono, as Ricky Gervais would say, and then me and Frizz have just started looking at each other laughing, and Jono, who was really into the convo, just sort of looked and was like, and because he's the champion, Blake, he humoured you, but then you've gone on this tangent about it, and I just, whatever was said after that, I have no idea because
I know you didn't. And I said it, and I can remember thinking to myself, Cam and Frizz wouldn't know that they would have. I've made the point, and I've missed out the Ricky Gervais thing. But then, literally walked out the door, and Frizz has gone like, "Oh, as Ricky Gervais said, brother," and I've just gone, "Oh, fuck, no."
But you're lucky that Latsy had just done something before it. So the heat wasn't on you too much. But
oh, what a disaster.
Never been better.
Oh, God. Brian Johnson was a great CEO, but he did have that catchphrase. Oh,
that day at Newcastle. We won't go further, but the day at Newcastle.
No, that was hilarious. The day, so we have a CEO at the club, Brian Johnson, great fella, ex-player, like 100%, one of like genuine guy.
Yeah.
Genuine guy. But, at everyday interactions, hey, how you going? Like, we'd say, yeah, I'm going good. Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, whatever. His throwaway line at all times was, I've never been better.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, like, obviously some of us picked up on that. And like, and obviously you're going to ask him how he's doing. Yeah. But I am like shaking at points like, hey, Jono, how you going? Like because I, mimicked him as many of us did. But he had this one time at Newcastle. We're playing away there and getting ready in the change room. He comes in and he had like a skin operation or something.
I think he whether he was doing something that strips your skin back to fight off the threat of skin cancers. I'm not sure if he had them or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, and his face was,
his face was like a squashed tomato. Just, it looked a mess.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's like, hey, John, how are you, mate? He's like, I've never been better. We're like, really? Like, you know? Like, can you imagine meeting him for the first time that day? How you doing, mate? You all right? I've never been bad.
Jeez, what are you?
Had a tough life because he's like mid-50s, 60, like.
Yeah, mate, but absolute champion. The story is that he did his knees last year of his career, or he might have had a year to go, and he gave his money back to the club. So this is the type of guy, and just one of those positive people that I wish I could be like you. I wish I had that the glass half full, but I messed up with the, as Ricky Gervais said, that was one of those you just can't take back. We're going to take a quick break from the podcast to tell you about AG1, the daily foundational nutritional drink with all your needs in the one place. I like to look after my health, and AG1 takes care of that for me. No more tablets, vitamin pills, all the health nutrition I need, all in the one place. Every single morning, it's as easy. Open up the fridge, scoop of AG1 in a glass, cold water, stir it with a fork, drink it. It tastes great, and it helps me know. It gives me the peace of mind that all my nutritional needs are taken care of, all in the one drink. It really is as simple as that. And also, anybody that knows anything about health benefits knows that it comes with adding simple routines to your day. It's not about magic pills. They're not going to work. AG1 helps me be the best version of myself by having this new habit of every single morning having that drink. I know my nutritional bases are covered thanks to AG1. A lot of athletes are now taking AG1, and with 75 high quality ingredients, it's no wonder why. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/buyround. That's drinkag1.com/buyround. Check it out. We have that great year in 2018. I reflected on that season and thought, okay, well, if the stars do align, we can do something here. But an off-field issue with one of our star players derailed us for 19. I don't think there's any two ways of putting that. I don't have any. Look, it was a new situation, completely new, and I backed our teammate all the way. I was at the time very shocked at the punishment and him not being allowed to play as a group. I think we all were. I think that's fair to say. I don't think us as players saw that coming because we hadn't seen it before. It was totally new. How did you handle that situation as like a real senior leader? I personally think we got it wrong as a club, but what about you? Yeah, I think I agree with you there. Obviously, can't look past it. Definitely had a massive impact on us, and I'd also couple that with Gaz's injury and departure too. Like for me, like with Jack, it was a huge situation, both for him personally and then as a club, because he was a massive part of what we were doing, and
he was our friend.
Yeah,
and he was going through this.
Yeah, and but then also with Gaz, who, as much as he was quite a sort of fella, but the boys just gravitated towards him because what he'd achieved and the way, mate, for me he was the best 5'8" in the game.
He was
at the time there. But to lose him and then hear that he's gone over to Warrington and done his shoulder, so it was a lot for the club to deal with, and I think the club, maybe if they had their time again they would do things differently. I don't know, but it was a new situation. I think there was always, as players, I think we thought, okay, well, there's a trial or there's a hearing then, and then it'll be sorted out then, and then, oh, nope, didn't get sorted then, and it just sort of kept stretching on, and that, I think that was what sort of made it hard to just put it to the side and get on with things, because it was always like, yeah, it'll be sorted then. Oh, it'll be sorted,
and I don't know, but the stand down decision got challenged, didn't it?
Yep.
Do you remember that game in Mudgee?
Yes.
And we were waiting on that announcement, and
Yeah.
I think it was coming out on the Friday.
Yep.
We were in Mudgee,
Yep.
and it got upheld, and
Yeah.
it just
we were nowhere that
knocked us.
Yeah, we were terrible that day.
Was,
yeah,
obviously Ponga put on a clinic.
Yeah, but we were and it, like you said, because he was our friend, and you know you train with someone, you and to see them going through that, and you know we have our opinion because we're close to him,
and we are biased.
Yeah,
of course
and
we are.
That's how it is, and so that from that standpoint, it was hard, and for the club, I don't know what they could have done. I'm not too sure, and the only situation, the NRL didn't know what to do either. Obviously, they didn't know what to do, and I guess when you look at it from a strictly shrewd business standpoint, as a team, a player of that caliber on the money they're on, to not have that in your salary cap coupled with Gaz as well, it's hard, mate. It's hard. You're up against it, and I still think we could have done better than what we did, but at the same time, it wasn't an easy situation, and there was obviously a fallout from that, and
it was
tough,
shit.
mate, yeah.
Like there was obviously there was no winners in it.
At all.
You know, we were affected. The game was affected.
Yeah,
and obviously everybody involved was affected. And you obviously you think that matters before the courts, that they need to take their time.
Yeah,
and that's a society that we should be very grateful for living in. That these do get decided before the courts, and everybody has a right to a fair trial. We, you know, in terms of, I spoke before about structuring great societies, and that's how you structure them. And if, you know, a football club and some players within that football club get affected, well, that doesn't matter. It's about this is what it's about. And I was in that bubble of being a player and a Dragons player, and I was dead against the stand down policy, and especially it being acted retrospectively. I think that's the right way of putting it. So kind of like, well, if I'm going down the road and I'm going 50 and it's a 50 mile an hour zone or 50 k's an hour zone, and then next day it's reduced to 30, but then they come and fine me because I went 50. I know it's very different, but it's look, it's hard. It's very difficult because you don't want to get your words taken out of context. But you know, there as a player, I understand now, like, why we have the no fault stand down policy. But obviously, it wasn't in play. No. It was a reaction to the incident with Jack. But it certainly derailed us. Looking how the club acted. Look, how do you? Because it is so new, and
mate, like you said there, as a player, always back the players, because that, you know, we have to stand strong as we are right now with the RLPA stuff. We won't get into that, but players are doing a great job. We'll leave that. But I can also understand the game standpoint in any situation with an old fault stand down, because at the end of the day, like we spoke about, it's a kids' game we're playing, made up game, but we get paid very, very well for it, you know. And the opportunities that we have off the back of what we do are just, you know, you can make this life what you want if you do it the right way with rugby league. But the only reason we have that is because of the people that invest in it and back it. And if they don't like something, you know, whether that's a moral issue, a legal issue, whatever, they can pull out at any moment, you know. And so I can understand the anxiety that the NRL have in those situations. I completely get it, because, and as players, we need to at some point understand that to a degree as well, because it, you know, we could fight the good fight and have all these things, but if at the end of the day we're left with nothing, you know, because of it, then
Yeah,
You know,
is it worth
it's
it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a
No,
hard
I
it's
know
a
what
hard
you're
issue.
saying.
Yeah,
It is a hard issue.
Yeah.
I just thought for me, I thought that the club should have handled it a bit of like, let's make it us against everybody else.
yeah,
That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
something I was angling for.
yeah.
But it, you know,
Yeah.
and that who knows, that may have made the situation even worse.
Yeah,
We don't know. Like,
Yeah.
our performances were affected. Our ability to play at our best were no doubt affected. I don't apply any blame to anybody.
Yeah.
I just think that's how I would have handled it. Make it us against the
Yeah.
world kind of thing. But we move on, and it wasn't to be. You then get made. You spoke about Gaz. Moving on, and you became captain of the Dragons. Very proud moment in your life.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously touched on it before, where from coming from South over and sort of building myself up again, and to have the success we had, and then like for those couple years there, and Gaz to move on, and for the coaching staff to have the trust and belief in me that I could do the job. I took that very seriously, and I was very honoured for that, and I was so invested in the joint, like everything. Like remember Murph, who was our leadership guy, he was trying culture, whatever word you want to put on it. I was on the phone with him, mate, every day. You're like probably more than I needed to be in reflection, but you know what it's like, mate, when your heart's in something and you want to do well and you want things to go well. I remember you telling me times that at the Dogs when you were captain, some of the fires you might have been putting out, or you know whether you should or shouldn't have been. You take that on, don't you?
It's just
because
part of the dance.
Yeah, and yeah, mate, I took it very. Yeah, I was honoured and I enjoyed it and I wanted it, and yeah, it was what I wanted to do, and unfortunately though, again that sort of we weren't ever able to replicate that success again from 18, and yeah, that's it's still great experience though. I look back on fondly, but learn a lot as well.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely. And then was it in Mary's last game you give him your jersey? Did he know it was going to be his last game? I can't remember the fallout from that.
So obviously you were heading over to Saints.
Yeah.
For that. So I think it was a week. It was a few days before he'd been told that either he wasn't going to be, he was finished at the end of the year or whatever. They'd come to an agreement that he was going to stand down, but he was able to coach that last game.
Yes,
and
he
so
was, yeah.
I remember we got told on captain's run. I'm pretty sure we got told on captain's run, and whilst you're not naive as a player because it's a results business, and we hadn't been a couple of years there, but it's still, especially he brought me over to the club, so it stung, and I was a bit numb that captain's run. I was a bit like shaken, and then I just thought, what's going on here? And then I just remember I went home that day after captain's run and was thinking about it. I was like, I'm going balls out tomorrow. Like there's no worry how I'm feeling. There's no tomorrow because for what he's done for me. And I remember at the time on the field, whenever I was if I was tired or you start getting your own head a little bit, I was like, nah, this Mary we need to do it. We need to do it. And Para were going well at the time, and we weren't, and we ended up beating them 14-12. Like, and then I just thought, what can I really say or do for him? And I gave him my jersey, which he appreciated, but it was hard to put into words how much he's meant to my career. And I thought that was a good way to do it, but at the same time, it was just unfortunate because whether Mary got things wrong or not, I still believe as players, it's on us. It is on us, and we underachieved, I believe, after that 2018. I really do. Some of the players we had in the roster, myself included, we didn't play to our potential, and that's always the. But that's footy. That a lot of teams have been through that. So yeah.
But you're skipper of the club. The coach that brought you over moves on. At the end of 2021, you're off contract. The club has not long moved on Reece Robson, one of the best up and coming hookers. He goes to play. He can't see an avenue to first grade. Because his path is being blocked by you, an 80-minute hooker. So it seems like it's Okay, well, it seems like the club should be doing everything to keep you. It should be a given that their skipper, their most influential player, the person that leads everything at training, wins everything at training, drives that positive culture, is so infectious with his actions. Everybody liked you within that dressing room. I couldn't believe it when I was hearing that the club weren't, the club weren't offering you a contract and were willing to let you walk. I've seen some crazy decisions in rugby league, and we'll see some other crazy decisions, and you think, "Wow, how can a club do that?" Or you wanted to. I'm assuming you wanted to stay, or that was the conversations that we were having, and boggled the mind. Can you just how did all that come about?
Well, I think so that after you left in 2020 there, so obviously Mary had been moved on, and there was still a shot there to make the finals, a slim shot, but there was. And, I was very invested in everything and wanted things to go well, and I was getting increasingly frustrated because there was a little bit of an eye towards the next year. Obviously, the club needs to get a new coach, and I understand that, but I just felt like as a group we probably weren't looking at what was right in front of us enough, and whether or not in hindsight, I think I was very demanding as a leader, and which I don't apologise for, but I think what I've learnt now, especially from people I've seen now, is you got to bring people with you in the way that they like to be led, if that makes sense, rather than just what you think or what you demand. And anyway, got to the end of the season, and then I hadn't heard anything from the club. Was fortunate enough to go into that Origin period, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and then was sort of waiting around, and I was very fortunate enough to have a couple clubs. Sharks obviously being one of them that I spoke to, and for the Dragons standpoint, new coach in, he wanted to see how things would unfold. And for my thing, I felt like, I understand you don't know me, you want to get to know me, but I've played footy at the club now for 4 years, and
not that hard to see.
Yeah, so if you don't have a contract for me now, I was adamant I wasn't going into the season without my future sorted, and there was no offer there. So maybe if I'd stayed and played the season out, which I did my knee a couple of weeks later, so that wouldn't have worked, would it? Yeah. But
surely though the other people at the Hawk wasn't having full autonomy. It's like, we're going to make this decision for you. We're going to keep Cam.
Yeah, I don't know, mate. To be honest with you,
board,
there was
board level.
Yeah,
other senior staff. They've got to make that call.
Yeah, I think
or make a conversation with people and say, man, we've got our star player, we've got our captain off contract here. What are we going to do? We're going to and he's saying I don't want that insecurity going into the season.
Yeah, but I will say too, obviously I still don't agree with the decision, but first and foremost, from where I've ended up now, I'm completely grateful, and I'm so lucky. And this is nothing against the Dragons, because I thoroughly enjoyed my time there, and it's a massive part of my career. But where I am now is it's unbelievable. But in saying that as well, there was a couple of years there at the club at the Dragons where we didn't have success, and I'm a big believer, if you're not, you're either you're a solution or you're part of the problem. And we weren't winning games, so even though I might have been getting pats on the back and things like that, I was part of the problem, because we all were, mate. We were all part of the problem. So for me to just think I deserve another contract, things like that, I'm
Cam. Okay, if you're part of the problem, you leave. Okay, then there's the solution.
Yeah, but
it hasn't happened.
I'm not the only one too.
No, I know.
I don't want to name names because we all have our own thing, but that was their decision to make, and I think for me it is frustrating at times. You get for the most part, Dragons fans are very gracious towards me. You might get the odd person that might have said at the time, "Well, money talks, doesn't it?" And it's just I'm never going to talk back to people because there's no point, is there? But Those are the things that are out there.
This wasn't you going like, I'm going to the highest bidder.
Nah.
It was like, I need my future sorted, and Dragons didn't come to the party. And I think you've got to blame them. Like,
yeah,
I was working at the club at the time and just, I couldn't get my head around it.
Yeah.
I think I'd spoke to you and was like, what's happened? Like thinking there'd been a fallout, but it wasn't. It was just they weren't coming to the party.
Yeah.
Which was...
Yeah. And it's not easy as a new head coach coming in. I get it because he's trying to sort things out. And it's tough with the way that footy works because before I'd even had the opportunity to meet with the new coach, things were in the media already because I hadn't been re-signed yet. So there's already this thing playing out before we've even been able to have a chat. And before you know it, I'd only been around him for a little bit. And then after I had signed at the Sharks, he got to know me a little bit more. It was only a couple of weeks there before I did my knee. But, whether or not he might have done things differently, I don't know. But, yeah, he had to make a decision before knowing me. So I get that might have been hard, but there was probably enough, and there was enough people left in the organisation, and so therefore that tells me that I don't completely put it on the new coach that came in because it can't be that.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
I think you look at other potential senior management there and go, why were they not so adamant?
Yeah. So, but that again, it's an interesting time in my life, but yeah, I'm very, very happy with how things have worked out. And
oh, mate, 100%. But I just think, for me, that point in the trajectory of where the Dragons were going or where they wanted to go, to allow their captain at the age you were, at the form that you were in, was just moronic.
Yeah, I don't know, mate. Yeah, it's not sure.
Anyway. Probably a good job you did resign. Now, I'm a bit of a funny one when it comes to the transfer market and how the trade windows are set up. As a player, I was all in favour of having 12 months. Mm-hmm. Personally now, I sort of think it should be more an NFL-style model where we wait for a trade window. Now, for you, that may have hurt your chances a little bit. But that's the situation that most people would face where they don't... You're in a fortunate position because you were one of the best players in the game at the time that you could get a club say, oh, no, we're going to make a move now. Almost a year before you would go and join that club. Mm-hmm. You do... Was it in training?
Yeah, it was in training. Day of the first trial. I wasn't playing in the first trial, but the younger fellas were having a game and we were doing a session. And, yeah, did it that day.
It was ACL.
ACL, yeah.
So that's February.
Yep.
Did they? Was it just write the season off there and then, or
pretty well. Like it's 9 months is where it's at these days, and you start doing the math as any player, and I feel like it would have been like grand final if that. And had a great relationship with the physios there at Dragons, and they were really good to me, and they just said, mate, just wipe it out. Like, even though they knew that I wasn't going to be playing for this club again, they had my best interests at heart. So there's, certain aspects of the club, like I've mentioned before with Mary and the people that got me there, and then some of the staff that are still there now that they were so good to me that, there's always good where if you want to look at that rather than the negatives, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, was that season 2021?
Yeah, that was 21 going into 21.
2021.
Yeah.
So the season of 2021, COVID is lurking around, very strict rules. How did you find that from a recovery point of view? It was obviously because the comp did end up getting relocated, but at first it was still you were still all at home. There's only the Warriors that travelled over in the beginning. Yeah,
so it was still that bubble. So I was pretty well.
The bubble.
Yeah, so I was pretty well. Doing my rehab, which was hard because, and again, I was very distant from the playing group because obviously I'm on a different time schedule with my knee. I'm in the gym when they're on the field and then
running your own race as usual.
Pretty
Cameron McInnes show.
But so I was I'd go to the games and that and things like that, but I wasn't a real big part of it, which again, I was off to another club at the end. It was just such a unique situation. But doing my rehab and sorting the house out because we're going to move to Sydney. We're moving to Sydney, so
Sydney.
Trying to get it ready to sell it to buy up in Sydney, which we're able to do. And so I was doing that, and then obviously there was that last game. I forget what round it was, but yeah, there was talk about the game getting shut down and moving up to Queensland. And for me, I was just like, we just moved to Sydney, like just got in Sydney. So the plan was to travel down for the last half of the year, doing me rehab down in Wollongong, and then got told the guy I was on the Zoom as everyone was, and then after that Zoom, someone called me from the Dragons on, yeah, mate, you're not coming with us because you're a body, we can't use you. And I was like, yeah, I understand. We'll try sort you out with a local physio or try sort you out. And then I called, getting emotional. No. Anyway, I called the Sharks physio at the time, or head of performance, Nathan Pickworth, who had been at the Dragons with us. So I had a great relationship with him. Just let him know because he was sort of liaising with the Dragons about
liaising. That's a good way of looking at it, or more like just stressing every 2 minutes. What's the Cam doing with his rehab? And
he just sort of had the idea. Goes, well, they had a little bubble staying in a few injured boys. Wade Graham being one of them, staying down in Sydney to do their rehab. Why don't we try to get you over? And the Dragons were all for that. So, and again, like with the Dragons, they paid me for the rest of that year, even though I was training at the Sharks and under their care. So the clubs were able to work that out. But
for the greater good, like what's the point? Well, you should go anyway.
Yeah, but for that, but I guess the way they could look at it is just say, and thankfully it didn't happen. If I hurt myself again at training there, well, Dragons are paying me, but then who's liable for it? And there's a little bit there. Yeah. It's not that complicated, but they were good about it in that regard. So I'm very lucky, and obviously I was in lockdown down here like we all were, but I still was lucky enough to go to training every day because that was deemed essential work. Yeah, heaps essential. And also our little girl wasn't a year old left yet, so. You know, as a player, it's great we have days off, but there's also a lot of weekends away and things like that. And I was with her for the first year of her life. I reckon I put her to bed pretty well every night, which
that's pretty cool.
Which is, not many footy players get to do that. No. So, that was sort of pretty cool out of that as well.
Yeah. Mate, just before the competition got relocated, the Dragons were in the news for all the wrong reasons. Now, I can remember that story breaking. I was actually backstage at Fox and just thinking, and I was working at the club at the time. I'm like, oh, God. No. I think it was the Sunday because it happened on the Saturday night, and it was like reports of a Dragons bubble breach, COVID breach barbecue. I'm like, I suspected up to 8 players. I'm like thinking, who would it be? No. Going through my mind. I was like, I hope Cam's there. It was obviously Paul Vaughan has hosted a barbecue and in a time when you probably shouldn't have. I understand. Look, all for being one of the boys. If I was playing, I'm not going to lie, I probably would have been there myself. You weren't. That does not surprise me for a number of reasons. You're not that way inclined anyway, and also with the knee. But maybe, there was that lack of presence from you to say, I know what it's like when you're at the back of the bus and people are talking. And it's like, But then strong voices like yourself would have put that out. You weren't a part of the group there then. What were your thoughts on everything that happened, and where did you see that from your standpoint?
So I think with that, obviously I wasn't there, and if I'm being honest, I didn't know it was even going on. And if you want to really think about that, a lot of the guys that were there lived down in that Shell Harbour area where I lived, and I wasn't invited. So I was the uncool kid that didn't get invited to the party. But I think looking back on that year, obviously like I mentioned, I was on a different time frame, but also my head was probably gone, if I'm being honest. And I can understand why, but at the same time, looking back on it, being a little bit older, a bit more mature, I definitely could have still been with a few of the younger kids like Bud Sullivan and that, who I'm still very close to. I'd often had chats with them and talk to them about where they were at, but I still think I could have had a voice in the group. And if I had heard about that going on, then there's no way I wouldn't have spoken up. Whether or not they would have done it or not, I don't know. But there was no way I would have let that go. But it wasn't a sort of a squad known thing that was happening. So it was a bit calculated there, and they know they made a mistake, so I'm not going to bash them for it. And where we're sitting today, looking back on that, to think that's what they did and that's the biggest crime, it's like, really? But in the climate at the time, it was huge, and that's all that matters. So
imagine that storyline. Players stood down and fined for having a barbecue.
Yeah,
but at that time, that was the sensitivity and the overreach of COVID.
Yeah,
it was just deemed.
Yeah,
and again, I probably laughed and joked about it, but then the reality of it is speaking to some people, it's like that could have shut the game down.
Oh, exactly.
And that could have can you imagine playing at the Warriors?
Yeah,
and you've come over.
Yeah,
and then.
Yeah, and for those Warriors players, like I know Lisa Namau, who I love. His missus and kids stayed in New Zealand, and he was over here, on his own without them. And then when he ended up tearing his pec and went home, but I could only imagine for him the sacrifices he was making, along with many others. To hear that, it would have been a big kick in the guts, because he's probably thinking, why am I in this other country away from my family and kids when there's these people that, just having a barbecue? And I completely understand that. So, looking back on it, if I would change anything from that year, it wouldn't do me knee, obviously, but also probably just because I'm getting paid by the club still. So you got a job to do. And I was doing my job in terms of getting my body right, and I was doing promotional stuff as we do as players. But if I had my time again, I would have pushed myself harder to try and be a presence over the group more than I was. But things happen,
Yeah. Like I say, you went to the Sharks that year and you hit it off. Instant success there. That doesn't surprise me. Yourself, Dale, a couple of other very strong leaders. And we've spoke about your current time there. What about the future for you? What's your future in the game and then beyond looking like?
Yeah. So obviously I've got 2 more years after this one.
What will that take you to? 20?
So I'll be 31 when I'm finished that deal. So
Mate, despite all the marks on your face, I've got you pegged for like 26, 27.
Yeah. No, but thank you. Well, but
not quite the reaction I was expecting.
When I first got to the Sharks, they couldn't believe I was under 30, so that's good. But anyway, mate, I'm keen to. Obviously, you never know, as we spoke about before, what can happen in life. But if body's willing, I'm going to try to drag it out as long as I can. But as long as I think I've spoken to you in the past about this. If I get to a point where I think that I'm not contributing both on and off the field, properly, then that's when, it's enough for me. And the amount I put into it, I don't just mean, playing here or there, like what I do in my life. And I'm no different to other players, but I can't fathom just sort of being a bit player, if that makes sense to you. And for some guys that they love about that, that's not me. So whether that, hopefully at the end of this deal, I've got more in the legs, whether that's in the NRL, at the Sharks, or maybe overseas. Wherever I go, you'll be getting the best of me, but otherwise you're not getting me at all. So that's...
I love that. That's why, Cam, that's why we love you, because if you're not getting the best of you, you're not getting you at all. I love it.
Yeah. And that's like... I just think no matter what you do in life, and mate, like, you're the same. You either do it 100% or you don't do it at all. That's what it is. So, and with footy, 100% for me, you need to look battered sometimes, because that's the game, isn't it? But and then in terms of after footy,
mate, if you're not, you are very much. I think what epitomises you, Cam, is for me not. People look at 81 tackles. There was a game where Dragons played South, and you charge down a kick, and there's like a field goal attempt, and then most people stop, but then you go again, and I think there's 2 or 3 South players going to dive on the ball. They're all ahead of you, and you find a way to get there. And for me, I think what sums you up is you're willing to do what the other guy won't, and that's dive on those loose balls and chase the impossible, which is what you did. And I think I'll never forget that play. That's another thing that like sticks in your mind. You go, like, wow. And if that's not infectious, if that's not inspiring, if that's not contagious to help others do better, and that's just one example of how you achieve the impossible. And that's not speed, because there's like the reality of the situation in that moment. All of the 3 Souths players should beat the 1 St. George player, but you don't. And in terms of even when I think about you re-signing at the club and that decision about, I don't know, I want to meet him first, just show that tape. Just show it and go, there you go. Okay, how many years, sir? On what?
Yeah, I don't
like
mate.
it's
like I get like it's obviously like when you speak like that, it's very humbling, but that's what as well. Like when you're coming up as a player and like you don't give up. Like that's what it is, and you're not going to play well every game. Like there's games that I've played where you're like, what were you doing today? But there's a difference between you might have a game like that, but your effort's still 100%, and things don't go your way that game, or your timing's off, you're a little bit off, you drop a ball or penalty, or the harder you try, the worse it gets. But that effort, like for me, I'd like to say my effort was the same for every game.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think you can say that.
And that's, should be a given for what we do, to be fair, isn't it? But it's not though, is it? But it should be.
Doing your job.
Just doing your job.
So life after football, what have you got planned, or where are you thinking that'll shape?
I'm very conscious of making sure that my partner has a good go of it. Like, without going too far into it, we've been together for 10 years now. So I'm 29 and she's 27, so 17, 19. And she's just followed me around everywhere, given birth to two children, a third one on the way, just pretty much letting me have 2 lives, because as footy players we get the life here being a footy player, and then I get to walk in the door and there's this house here with these kids that she keeps running. So I'm very lucky for that, because I'm probably not the easiest to live with at times, but she does all this so that I can do what I do. And then I'm very conscious that when I'm done, whatever she wants to do, whatever that is, she gets to do that. And if that means I work whatever job it is, like, as long, obviously we all have bills to pay, but if it's just something that gives us time for me to be there for the kids while she's doing what she wants, then that's what it'll be. I'd like to have some time away from footy for sure. Yeah, I think it's important that you put your head in other sort of walks of life, because I've been playing since I was 6. Like like some people can go straight into it, but I think it'll be good for me to have a year or 2, I think. And whether the game calls me back or not, I'm not too sure. But definitely the biggest thing for me is being there for the kids 100% and letting the missus be the breadwinner. She can have a turn. Yeah.
That's an incredible answer, Cam. And your nose has just poked my eye out.
Hopefully that sounded good anyway.
That's all the brownie points. Oh, it's just all about you, babe. Honestly, yeah. Reality is, Cam's like, I'm just going to get into coaching. I'm going to be out. I'll be out at 5 a.m. home at 7 o'clock. Hopefully home
when the kids are going to bed.
Oh, not you again. No, mate, that's an incredible answer. And I know that you're being genuine as well. Not just because I know you. I can tell by looking at you and you get a sense that that is a genuine answer. And it's pretty remarkable. But I think no matter what you put your mind to, you'll be amazing, yeah. And I hope the game finds a role for someone like you because it needs more people like you. It really does. Our next part of the show, Tooheys sponsored this set, Tooheys partner with us on this section. Tooheys are all about teamwork. So we want to get your dream spine.
Spine. Yep.
You know, the one, and you know what a spine is. You don't need me to tell you, but just in case you don't know, it's a 1, 6, 7, and 9. You can put yourself in it, hooker, if you want. I mean, that's up to you.
I think I'm not sure how other people have done it, but I'm going to go with players I've played with at the 3 clubs. One more club, and I think I'm in the Jeremy Latimore, the journeyman category. So I'm going to hopefully Sharks.
That's something to consider when you come off contract, isn't it? Do I want to be more or less like Jeremy Latimore?
I think so. I'm going to go at fullback, Greg Inglis. That obviously
not Duffo.
No, not Duffo. Yeah, we love Duffo, but
we do.
Yeah,
we do love Duffo.
Well, you got a good impersonation of him, but we'll leave that. We'll leave that for another day. That one, but and obviously Greg coming into first grade, the things he could do in that 2014 year, unbelievable. So he's at fullback. At 5'8", mentioned him before, Gaz Widdop from the Dragons, just from in 17 and 18, just unbelievable. And not the best trainer I've ever been around, Gaz, but just what a competitor on the field. At halfback, to get one of my Sharks players in there, I'm going to go Nico. The year he had last year, Dally M, unbelievable. And even though he's a bit older, I think his trajectory, he's got so much more improvement in him. And for the next 5 years, I think the sky's the limit for him. And then for hooker, I'm going to go back to South and go Isaac Luke. He's he calls me his little brother. Although I think from the time I got to South, I was more mature than him at the age of 18. But no, it was great. You've seen it in your career too, especially we spoke about it before, hooker, halves, fullback. Only one can play. And it's human nature to have that little bit of, well, hold on a minute, you're coming to take my spot, aren't you? And so you might not give a little bit, or you might be a bit standoffish. First day, got me under his wing, just whatever I needed, and just try to make me feel a part of it. And if I was being too quiet, he'd give me a kick up the bum saying, come on, you need to use it. Yeah, great man. So came to Dragons for a little bit with us as well.
Yes, he did, yeah. Well,
that'll be a trivia question in the future, I reckon. But so that's my spine there. Greg, Gaz, Nico, and Isaac.
Yeah, that's a great spine. Yeah. Big thanks to Tooheys for partners with us on that section. They are all about teamwork, and spines make teams. Now that team would be incredible to watch and play with. I would have put yourself in there, but anyway. And then here's 3 other questions we ask each and every guest. I reckon this is going to be a tough one for you. For a lot of other people who ask this question too, the answer's already been said, but if football didn't exist, what do you think you'd be doing?
Well, I went to uni out of school.
Did you?
Yeah, I was doing physiotherapy because my last year of high school, I busted my leg, so I couldn't play any footy that year. So I just studied and trained. So
did you?
I ended up going well.
Is that why Jeremy was always going to you saying, "Oh, my calf, my knee," because he thought you may have had some insight into how to fix it?
I hope so, but
my shoulder.
Yeah. Remember Ben Hunt stepped in that day. But to be honest, I was doing physio, but my heart wasn't in it because the dream was to play footy. To be honest with you, I don't really know, but doing a few army camps, and I was very lucky to go to Holsworthy, as I don't know if you did with the Dogs, and seeing those commandos, I don't know how I would have gone over there, but I would have loved to have done something like that, I think.
Military.
Oh, yeah, just that's another life though. That's like now with the kids and that, obviously not, but this is assuming that I'm young and yeah. I think something like that, like whether I would have been any good at it, and And I don't think
all
like
right.
for what they do, like we always get compared to them. But let's be real, we play a game. Like we might get, injure your shoulder or your knee or something. These guys are getting shot at. Like it's just, but so maybe that.
Incredible what our servicemen and women are willing to do. It really is. A sliding doors moment that you would think about what if or what may have happened if a different decision or way of life would have been chosen.
Yeah, I don't know, because I've been so footy centric. It's probably just something in footy, I guess. I suppose with my partner as well, she knocked me back a couple of times before we got together. So maybe if I'd given up, things would be different there. But with footy, I guess at South, I guess the sliding doors is if I had the maturity I have now. Back then, maybe things would have been, you never know, like maybe I would have worked out there, maybe it wouldn't. And then also if I'd not had, I guess, the courage or the back myself to try at another club, who knows, that, I guess something like that maybe. So that's probably as good as I got there.
Yeah, fair enough. Lastly, the most interesting person you've met.
Yeah. Without putting you on the spot, I don't know if anyone that's been on the podcast has said you, but it's actually it's actually yourself, mate. I think,
mate, you need to get out more.
Just I'm not surprised with what you've gone to after footy because of and I spoke about it before. When you do something, you're 100% into it, and the way you played the game, just I remember through the week you'd be pretty relaxed and casual, and then on game day, just you were on, and the way you played. But then the other side of you is how intellectual and joking around, and the ability to know what you're talking about before you speak. Which there's a lot of people in this world that speak without knowing what they're talking about, and just polar opposites. Like, it's very rare that you have someone on the field that's so barbaric, that's a good word by the way, and then off the field so switched on, and it's hard to get that balance. It's most people can't separate themselves, and for me that and just all the chats we had together as well, and your St. Helens days and everything, and
I think it's called borderline personality disorder.
It's still
or multiple personality disorder.
And if it wasn't you, I'd also say Luke Keary as well, and I think you need to get him on the podcast one day because
that's a great show.
He's he's, to be honest, if I just went a spine not trying to fit everyone in, he'd probably be in there as well because he's one of the best players I've ever played with. But as a person, just unbelievable.
But on your first answer, Cam, you need to go and meet some more people. If you think I'm more interesting than Jeremy Latimore, then
so that's
I need to keep this. I need to maybe go from once a week seeing my therapist to maybe a couple of times a week or every day. Get myself sorted out. I don't want to be that interesting. This will be normal. Cam, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, mate. I've loved where the conversation's gone. You had a great impact on my life. I learned so much from you. I genuinely did, and I look back with nothing but a smile about those years that we had together. And even if you did drag us to shit coffee shops in Wollongong, where we can't mention the name, can we? But no, we had some great times there, and I love those chats that we'd have, and we'd often go for little walks as well on trips away, and it was a great bond that we had, and a pleasure to call you a friend, and thank you so much for coming on to the Byron for us.
Appreciate it, mate. Thanks for having me. Cheers.